When I was little, my father was famous. He was the greatest samurai in the empire. He cut off the heads of 131 lords.
Hey everybody, Jerry Williams, aka GreaterSapien here. Thanks for stopping by. So the other day, I put up a YouTube short of former President Trump at a rally in New Jersey, and I showed him making a couple of verbal gaffes that were not shown in context. And I want to apologize for making you folks watch Trump without any warning, because you shouldn't be blindsided with his nonsense like that. Yeah, it's going to be one of those videos. But seriously, I picked those two clips for a reason. One reason is that they are an example of Trump's disturbing mental processes, and another is because those same two clips were getting a lot of rotation only edited as I presented them. Like, everywhere. It's always those same clips, and they're always chopped at pretty much the same spots. And that bugs me. It doesn't matter who the politician is, whether I support them or not. The cycle usually works like this for me. I see the clip for the first time. I'm like, what is wrong with that person? Then it shows up again. Seriously, this is nuts. Again, yeah, but why is that edit so abrupt? And again, seriously, why is it always the same edit? Where's the rest? This is really starting to get on my nerves. Does that happen with anybody else? So there was an ulterior motive to my putting up that short, besides voicing my dislike for that man. I wanted to open the door to this conversation and have the opportunity to react to what you all had to say about it. So yeah, it was a bit of a clickbait setup. So let's get into it. First, hats off to Combat God for having a little bit of faith that I wasn't just posting this as representative of what Trump said at the rally, and for echoing the same criticism I have for these types of clips. Next, a quick note to those few who thought the footage was faked in some way, that it was AI-generated footage. Nope. Sorry. All real. But why did you think it had to be AI? Is it that you think this isn't how a real person should be? Next is the group of reactions I was fully expecting and prepared for. You've taken these clips out of context and you're sick and lack integrity crowd. Aye. So I was already planning on playing these in context because I think it does matter for one of them. So the context of the first clip comes at 33 minutes and 22 seconds into the full speech published on YouTube, where he throws out claims of other countries flooding the U.S. with criminals.
The biggest thing we have is we have millions of people here that are criminals. They're criminals. Think of it. Venezuela just announced, and they had a new number, 67, now it's 72%. 72%, they're down in crime because they took their gangs, their gang members, they took a lot of their criminals, and they moved them into the United States of America.
So, this claim about Venezuela seems to be completely made up. Venezuela hasn't officially published its crime stats in over a decade, though crime is down in general. Back in March, a Venezuelan security official said crime was down 32%, but he didn't specify what type of crimes. Observers say that crime is on the decline down there for many reasons, major factors being the traditional victims of crimes, people from villages, are leaving the country, not so much the criminals. And only a small fraction of those people get as far as the U.S. There is more organized crime, so crimes are more deliberate and less crazy random. And the Venezuelan police are killing a lot of violent criminals. Thus the drop in crime. But there is no evidence to back Trump's claim that Venezuela is sending criminals here. He can't even back it up himself. Here he is a couple of weeks ago.
One stat before we go. Venezuela was very crime-ridden. They announced the other day 72% reduction in crime in the last year. You know why? They moved all their criminals from Venezuela right into the good old USA. And Biden let them do it. It's a disgrace.
But, sir, where are those numbers coming from?
I guess I get them from the papers in this case. I think it's a federal statement or, well, they're coming actually from Venezuela. They're coming from Venezuela.
Notice how he said he got it from the papers, then a federal statement, and then he remembered that he's claiming the press doesn't publish this fact, so he had to say he got it from Venezuela. In other words, someone told him to say it, and he can't back it up. Back to his speech.
Of America. Jail populations all over the world are way down, and these fools back there, the press, the fake news, they don't want to report it. You know why they're down? Because they're sending people in their jails into the United States, from Africa, from Asia, from all over the world. They're emptying out their jails into the United States.
Okay, now he's broadened it to the world, Africa, Asia. In the past, he has specifically said that it was the Congo sending criminals, a claim he can't back up and the Congolese government says is untrue. He says the world prison population is dropping, something the Institute for Crime and Justice Policy Research in Britain, which tracks the world prison population, says is not true. And experts on immigration say this is not true.
They're emptying out their mental institutions into the United States, our beautiful country. And now the prison populations all over the world are down. They don't want to report that. The mental institution population is down because they're taking people from insane asylums and from mental institution. You know what the difference is, right? An insane asylum is a mental institution on steroids. Silence of the Lamb.
Again, something that is not true or supported by any data. He's just making it up. You people are criticizing me, saying I'm only listening to sound bites, not the whole context, when the problem is you are not listening to what he's actually saying and seeing if he's telling the truth. Because he's not. What he's telling you is that the problem is those people. And this is one of the reasons why I oppose him as much as I do, because he's monsterizing immigrants and other people. They are criminals. They are insane. They are monsters. You folks like to say that I'm voting with my feelings, but Trump is all feelings. His whole thing is telling people to be afraid of the others that are coming to destroy the U.S. and that the country will be doomed and that he is the guy to save it. This is not my biased interpretation. I'll let him say it. This is the section immediately following the Hannibal Lecter digression.
Congratulations, the late, great Hannibal Lecter. We have people that are being released into our country that we don't want in our country, and they're coming in totally unchecked, totally unvetted, and we can't let this happen. They're destroying our country, and we're sitting back, and we better damn well win this election, because if we don't, our country is going to be doomed. It's going to be doomed.
So those people are being released into our country, and they are destroying our country. And if he doesn't win, the country is going to be doomed. That's all feelings. That's the world is dark, scary, and dangerous, and you need a strong man to keep you safe. I am that strong man. The problem isn't us. The problem isn't you or anything you've done or anyone like us have done. It's them. I will protect you from them. And to me, that's just a horrible, inhumane, and irresponsible message. And the people that fall for that kind of message will be the ultimate victims. He is a snake oil salesman selling you a cure-all. But after you get high for a bit, your money will be gone and your illness will get worse. Now, the reason I picked the Hannibal Lecter clip was not just because it's a clip that was being shown so often out of context. It showcases how his weird mind works. He doesn't think about what he says. The late, great Hannibal Lecter, he doesn't think about the words he uses, the message they might send. Many of his fans think that's a good thing. They like that. But I don't. I think a president should think about what he says, the consequences of his words. I think one of Trump's worst traits is that he can't shut the fuck up. Let's be honest. He can't. But showing only this clip out of context isn't good, at least not when the news does it. Because in context, the comment is worse. To those who commented that it was just a joke and that I didn't get it, I do get it. You don't get it. And the news talking heads don't get it. He's using disturbing and humorous digressions as an accent to a xenophobic message fueled by lies. And that is what should be shown. The next clip, and I didn't try to pass it off as one continuous clip, is more of a genuine mental gaffe that I find disturbingly funny. Disturbing because, once again, the man just can't shut up. People screw up names. No problem with that. But what I find disturbing about Trump is that he can't just be fine with screwing up a word or two. He has to have been right about the word he screwed up. Like, if a word on a teleprompter, and don't fool yourself, he uses teleprompters all the time, as do I. If a word on a teleprompter is builders, and he says buildings, he can't just say, excuse me, and use the right word. He has to make the wrong word have been right. He'll say, and when these great buildings come to buildings and builders, because buildings all have builders, don't they? So when these great buildings and builders come together, they will create a blah, 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 blah. It's like he's real-time Ministry of Truthing himself. You know how when Joe Biden was jogging up those stairs to Air Force One and stumbled and kept trying to jog up and stumbled more and more instead of just stopping and then walking cleanly up the steps? That's what Trump is doing verbally with these Jimmy Carter gaffes.
We're going to evict this man, the worst president by far. Jimmy Connors is Jimmy Connors is good. He's also happy. Jimmy is a very happy man, both of them, because you know what? They want him out. Jimmy Carter had a bad reputation.
Instead of just stopping and correcting himself, and some of you claim that he immediately corrected himself, he didn't. I think he noticed he screwed up but still didn't have the right name in his head yet. But does he wait? No. He keeps jogging up those mental stairs. Says Connors again. Then these are also happening? Happy, both of them? And then the right name comes to him and he finishes his thought. He makes his way up the stairs. The context doesn't really matter here because he's just making a blunder. As I said before, everyone messes up. But how he handles his gaffes, I think, is indicative of how he's not quite right. So the next category of responses, I separated the comments into categories so I wasn't too scattered, are those who claimed I was being a hypocrite by posting that video. These comments do not seem to understand the definition of hypocrisy. Now, if I was on here criticizing all of Biden's critics for taking little clips out of context and then doing this, you might have a point, but you haven't seen me doing that. If you think I have some duty to put videos out of similar issues with Biden, you would be wrong. This isn't 60 Minutes. I don't claim to be politically neutral, and I have said here before that people that claim their political views are based solely on logic and reason are lying to themselves and to you. Show me the hypocrisy. One commenter says it reeks of hypocrisy, bias, tribalism, and lack of principles. Well, one, no hypocrisy. True, there's obvious bias. It's politics. Only liars claim they don't have bias. Tribalism is literally what Trump is engaging in. Us versus them. Me pointing out this isn't particularly tribalistic beyond the standard party affiliation. And lack of principles? How so? Clickbait, yes, in order to open this door. But since I didn't try to pass this kind of thing off as genuine political discourse, I don't think that criticism has merit. Then there's the "but Biden" category of comments. The thing I find most amusing about these comments is that there are people who criticize me for criticizing Trump with out-of-context clips, who are then saying, "But Biden has these problems," and refer to things they saw from out-of-context clips about Biden. For example, Tribulate and Andy, who in previous comments criticized me for hypocrisy for out-of-context clips, lists off a bunch of things that are from clips that made the rounds about Biden. Can't string two sentences together, can't ride a bike, can't walk. These are things that are only true if you are focusing on the clips you've seen over and over again, and ignoring the 99+% of things showing the contrary. And Tribulate is making claims based on debunked interpretations of videos that he watched over and over and over again, and thinks are true. But there are those who say I can't talk about Trump when Biden is so old. Yeah, I can, because they are both hella old, and they are both showing their age. They just show it differently. Biden is getting physically slower. It takes him longer to move around. He speaks more slowly. But the ideas he puts forth show a sound decision-making mind, whether or not you or I agree with them. Trump age is showing in the things he says and does. He moves well. He speaks fast. But the ideas he puts forth show a diminishment. I'm sorry, but he can't shut up. He can barely filter his angry thoughts. The ideas he's putting forth are more dehumanizing and polarizing and more self-serving than ever. He's becoming a bitter old crank. Straight up, all other things being equal, if the choice comes down to an old man who is physically slow, takes a while to say things, but has shown empathy toward others and the working class people of the United States, and another equally old man that has turned into a revenge-fueled crank that has shown no concern for anyone but himself, that right there is easy for me. But all things aren't equal. And thus we come to the last section of the comments, the purely political commentary. Like this one. I find it funny that people on the right complain so much about the left bringing up race. Hell, if I bring it up once a year on YouTube, people say I am always talking about race. So why do Republicans always come out of nowhere to tell Black Democrats they are still on the plantation? Why does my disagreement with you politically put me in slave status to you? Why do I have to agree with you to be accepted as a fully free-thinking person? Ask yourselves about that. Or is that not what you think? And you just thought, oh, this is a good way to insult a Black person using race without being accused of being racist. Good luck with that. Then we have this comment in a similar vein of Dems were for slavery and there never was a party switch. Yeah, go learn your history. Let me tell you about my grandmother, Marietta Mays, born in 1917, if I remember correctly. Black woman, lifelong Republican. Now, I was born in 68, and I don't recall noticing politics until Jimmy Carter was president. Now, my grandmother and I would talk politics a lot, and I would ask her why she was a Republican, though she never voted for them anymore. She said the Republican Party used to be the party for colored people. She was old school. It was still colored people in her view. But they had changed during the civil rights era. I learned this from her before it ever came up in history classes or political debates. She stayed in the party, though, because it kept her on the mailing list and she saw the messaging they used with each other. She was savvy. The parties kept the same names, but their focus switched. That's just the reality. Deal with it. Then there are the comments that the economy was great, everyone did better, inflation was low, all because of Trump. And yes, the stats were good under Trump, but how is that because of Trump? The fact is, he inherited a strong and growing economy from Obama, and to his credit, he kept it going. But nearly anyone can manage a strong economy when things are going well. I've yet to hear anyone articulate what Trump did to make the economy strong. Take, for example, unemployment rates. There was a great low unemployment rate under Trump. Not as low as it is now, but still great. But looking at a chart of the unemployment rate from Bush 2 until now, can you tell me when Trump's policies started to affect the unemployment rate? When they kicked in? Let me help. This right here is when Obama got in office. And this is a month before the pandemic hit. Let's look closer. Can you tell me when Trump started improving the jobless rate? Or does it look like a trend started under Obama and continued under Trump? Trump is here. The trend just continued. Until it didn't. The true test is what you do when faced with adversity. And you folks seem to forget how he shat the bed when COVID hit. Now, you may say that COVID wasn't his fault. It just happened. True. But his response was all him. The chaos and uncertainty were all him. When the time came to show and prove his ability to manage this country under stress, he blew it. He tanked the economy. He tanked COVID communication. The only good he did was accelerate vaccines, and far too many on the right hate that part. Job loss, catastrophic. Death toll, catastrophic. Supply chain management, fumbled. Just like Obama inherited a bad economy that got worse before it got better, Trump set the table for Biden to inherit a worse economy that got much worse before getting better. And just like Obama, who after 4 years faced a tough re-election because he hadn't fixed everything fast enough, Biden faces criticism from those of you who have forgotten that it was Trump that ruined things in the first place. I haven't. You have a guy that came into a room and smeared feces all over the walls. And so another guy is brought in to clean it up. And it takes a while to clean up. And some things get worse as he's cleaning up. But it's starting to get pretty clean. But you guys are mad that he hasn't cleaned it up fast enough. So you're considering bringing the guy who smeared the feces in the first place back? Do I have criticisms of Biden? Yes, I do, especially his Israel policy. But compared to Trump, it's not even close. I believe reproductive rights must be protected once again on a federal level. Trump's casual dismissal of the idea that states could monitor women's health specifically to make sure they're not traveling out of state, which would be their right to have an abortion, is abhorrent. We need a president that will add some balance to the Supreme Court, where there are people like Alito who had a Stop the Steal flag in front of his home before Biden's inauguration. Trump has vowed to seek revenge on his political enemies, including news outlets and protesters, and says he would use the DOJ to do so. He has spoken of federalizing local police to enact immigration policy and immunizing them from the consequences of police violence. And then you have the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025 backing him, with the goal of firing thousands of non-political federal employees who have worked under various administrations and replacing them with hand-picked political operatives whose sole qualifications are political loyalty and that they will execute Republican administrations' bidding. They are literally trying to create the deep state they rail against. Now, you might be thinking, hey, Jerry, that's sounding an awful like a conspiracy theory. Slow down, buddy. Well, it's not a conspiracy theory if they have a website up and it's listing 100+ conservative organizations backing them. An application page where you can start the vetting process to be a political appointee, and they tell everyone what they plan to do. Here you have Steve Bannon interviewing the director of Project 2025.
But go ahead, sir.
Yeah, no, I really, we credit to Dr. Roberts. He brought me in April. I started playing the war room in May. We learned the word based, and it's been spreading around the building. But we're really taking over and infusing America first throughout the whole movement. And critically, what we've been able to do with Heritage is really use this mothership and unite the entire movement. We are going to systematically organize and prepare, like you're saying, for the D-Day invasion, January 20th, 2025.
Remember Project for a New American Century? The conservative think tank formed in the 90s in order to put things in place to go into Iraq once something happened big enough to give them an excuse? And then 9/11 happened and they found a way to go into Iraq? Yeah. It's not a conspiracy theory to say that when groups like this tell you what they're going to do when they get into power, we should believe them. People say I shouldn't look at biased clips and I should listen to what Trump is saying. That's the thing. I do listen to what Trump is actually saying. Some of you may recall, back in the fall of 2020, I put out a video saying I was concerned Trump would try and steal the election. Whew, I lost a lot of subs on that one. However, I was right. And I mentioned in that video that Trump had publicly said that he wanted to make sure he had a 9th justice on the Supreme Court on his side so that when he sued to overturn the election, it wouldn't be a tie. And what did he do? He sued and sued and sued in an attempt to get the election overturned by the Supreme Court. I believed what he was saying then. I am listening to him now, and what he is saying is abhorrent, undemocratic, and horrifying. And I believe him.
That's my job! That's what I do! I don't lose! I win! Is there no one on this planet to even challenge me?
Maybe you came by to congratulate me on last night's victory.